When a biker snatches SNATCHES inhaler, turning a peaceful evening into a terrifying ordeal, the crowd is left stunned. As SNATCHES struggles for air, her son, Roland, arrives, not just as her own, but as a protector. What unfolds is a tale of courage, family, and the power of resilience. Stay tuned to discover how one moment of cruelty unravels into a web of accountability and redemption. This is a tale you won't forget. A gentle hum of crickets and the distant rhythm of street performers, creating a tranquil backdrop for Natasha Whitefield's evening ritual. She loved this time of day, when the hustle and bustle of the city softened, leaving her favorite park as a sanctuary. Natasha, a petite woman with silver hair neatly pinned back, sat on her usual bench near the flower garden. She took a deep breath, savoring the fragrant blooms, and opened the book she carried in her tote. Beside her rested her inhaler, a small but vital companion she relied on to manage her asthma. The chirping of birds and the rustle of leaves made the park feel like a world apart. Just as she began to lose herself in the pages, the crunch of heavy boots on gravel pulled her attention. She glanced up to see a man approaching, a biker with a rough, unkempt appearance. His leather jacket bore patches and insignias she didn't recognize, and his expression was one of disdain. Something about his swagger made her uneasy. "Nice evening, old lady," the biker sneered, stopping a few feet away from her bench. His tone was anything but kind. Natasha closed her book slowly, her instincts sharpening. "Yes, it is," she replied, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. The biker stepped closer, his presence imposing. "That thing," he said, pointing at her inhaler. "Hand it over." Natasha blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "My inhaler?" she asked, clutching it protectively. "Yeah," he said, his grin twisted. "I want it. Now." Natasha tightened her grip on the inhaler. "I need this to breathe," she said firmly. "You can't have it." The biker's grin faded, replaced by a scowl. "Don't play games with me, lady. I'm not asking twice." Fear clawed at Natasha's composure, but she refused to give in. "Please leave me alone," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. Instead of backing off, the biker snatched the inhaler from her hand in one swift motion. Natasha gasped, clutching her chest as her breath began to hitch. "You don't need this," he said, holding it up like a trophy. "You're just an old hag sitting in a park." The world around Natasha seemed to blur as panic set in. She wheezed, desperately trying to pull air into her lungs. Her chest tightened, and she grabbed the bench for support. The biker, seemingly oblivious to her distress, laughed cruelly. Nearby, a few joggers and families had stopped to watch the scene unfold, their faces marked with uncertainty. Whispers rippled through the small crowd, but no one stepped forward. Some pulled out their phones, recording the shocking interaction, while others looked away, unsure of how to intervene. Natasha's vision swam as she struggled for air, her trembling hand reaching out toward the biker. "Please, I need it," she managed to choke out. But the biker only loomed closer, taunting her. "What's the matter? Can't breathe?" he mocked, waving the inhaler just out of her reach. The cruel smirk on his face contrasted sharply with Natasha's vulnerability, amplifying the tension that hung heavy in the air. For Natasha, the park, the place that had always brought her peace, had turned into a nightmare. She clutched her chest, fear gripping her as the scene spiraled further out of control. In the distance, the sound of hurried footsteps approached, but she could only pray they reached her in time. The whispers of the growing crowd rippled through the park, the unease in the air palpable. Some bystanders clutched their phones, recording the escalating tension, while others stood frozen, unsure of how to help. Natasha Whitefield, bent over the bench, gasped for air, her trembling hand reaching out toward the biker who stood over her with a smug grin. At the edge of the park, Roland Whitefield strode briskly down the path, his heart lifting slightly at the thought of surprising his mother during her evening ritual. But his relief turned to alarm when he saw a small crowd gathered near her usual bench. The unmistakable sight of his mother, hunched over in distress, sent a jolt of panic through him. "Mom," he called, his voice sharp as his pace quickened to a near run. As he drew closer, the scene came into focus. His mother clutching her chest, her breathing labored, and a biker standing over her, holding something aloft. Her inhaler. The biker turned his head lazily as Roland approached, the smirk on his face widening. Roland's tall, commanding frame and purposeful stride silenced the murmurs of the crowd. Without hesitation, he stepped between the biker and Natasha, placing himself as a shield for his mother. "Step away from her," Roland ordered, his tone calm but firm, the weight of his authority unmistakable. The biker, startled by Roland's sudden appearance, quickly regained his arrogance. "And who the hell are you?" he sneered, taking a step forward. "This is none of your business." Roland's sharp gaze locked onto the biker. "I'm making it my business. Give me the inhaler and step away. Now." The biker chuckled darkly, waving the inhaler like a trophy. "You think you can tell me what to do? I don't take orders from anyone, least of all you." Roland didn't flinch. "I won't ask again. Give it back." The biker's scoff turned into a mocking laugh. "What are you gonna do about it? Call the cops?" he jeered. Roland reached into his pocket and pulled out his badge, holding it up for all to see. "I am the cops," he said, his voice low and steady, his badge glinting in the fading sunlight. "Roland Whitefield, Chief of Police." The biker's face blanched, his bravado faltering as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The crowd murmured in astonishment, their phones capturing every second of the encounter. Natasha, still struggling to breathe, looked up at her son with a mixture of relief and pride. "I don't care who you are," the biker muttered, though his voice lacked the confidence it carried moments earlier. "She's just an old lady. It's not a big deal." Roland stepped closer, his towering presence forcing the biker to take a step back. "You put her life at risk," he said, his voice a sharp edge of restrained fury. "That's not just cruel, it's criminal." The biker hesitated, glancing at the crowd, and then back at Roland. His hands trembled slightly as he reluctantly extended the inhaler. Roland took it and immediately handed it to Natasha, who inhaled deeply, her breathing gradually stabilizing. "You okay, Mom?" Roland asked, kneeling beside her and placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Natasha nodded weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "I am now." Roland stood and turned back to the biker, his expression unreadable but undeniably authoritative. "You're under arrest for harassment and assault," he said, gesturing to an officer who had arrived on the scene. "Cuff him." The officer moved swiftly, placing handcuffs on the biker as the crowd erupted in murmurs and applause. The biker, his head hung low, offered no resistance, his earlier arrogance replaced by a look of shame. As the officer led the biker away, Roland helped Natasha to her feet, steadying her. "Let's get you home, Mom," he said gently. The officer stepped forward, placing handcuffs on the biker. The crowd murmured in approval as the biker, now visibly shaken, was escorted toward the waiting police cruiser. His head hung low, his arrogance completely stripped away. But just as he passed Natasha, her voice rang out, steady despite the tremor of emotion beneath it. "Wait." The officer paused, and Natasha stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the biker. Her eyes narrowed as recognition sparked. "I recognize him," she said, her voice trembling slightly but growing steadier with each word. Roland's brow furrowed as he turned to his mother. "What do you mean, Mom?" he asked. Natasha drew a deep breath, her hand tightening on Roland's arm for support. 5 months ago, someone vandalized my farm pen and stole my dog," she said, pointing a steady finger at the biker. "It was him. I remember his face." The biker froze mid-step, his eyes darting nervously from Natasha to Roland, and back again. The crowd gasped, their whispers turning into a low rumble of outrage. Roland's gaze sharpened as he turned back to the biker. "Is that true?" he demanded, his tone cutting through the noise. I don't know what she's talking about," the biker stammered, his voice breaking under the pressure. Natasha stepped closer, her voice unwavering. "You spray-painted hate symbols on my barn," she said, her words carrying the strength of her conviction. "And you took Daisy, my dog. I never thought I'd see you again." Roland's jaw tightened, his hands clenching at his sides. He turned to the arresting officer, his tone clipped and precise. "Add theft and vandalism to his charges," he ordered. "And notify animal control. We need to locate that dog." The biker's defiance dissolved completely as the officer led him away. The murmurs of the crowd turned to open condemnation, their voices a chorus of support for Natasha. Some applauded Roland's decisive actions, while others voiced their disgust at the biker's actions. At the police station, the biker sat in the interrogation room, his earlier bravado completely gone. Under the sharp gaze of the detectives and the unwavering presence of Roland, he began to crack. Roland, standing tall with a calm yet commanding demeanor, oversaw every detail of the process. The biker confessed to the vandalism and theft, finally revealing where he had sold Daisy, Natasha's beloved dog. His words were met with the cold efficiency of justice as charges for harassment, assault, vandalism, and theft were officially filed. Acting swiftly on the confession, Roland coordinated with animal control officers. The team followed the biker's lead to a remote property on the outskirts of town. After hours of searching, they found Daisy, malnourished but alive. The sight of her wagging tail, despite her condition, brought tears to the officers' eyes. They gently loaded her into their vehicle and drove her back to Natasha's farm. When Daisy arrived, Natasha was standing at the gate, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. As the officers opened the car door, Daisy bolted out, running straight to Natasha. Tears streamed down Natasha's face as she knelt to embrace her dog, who licked her cheeks with unbridled joy. The community, having gathered to support Natasha, erupted into applause. Laughter and cheers filled the air as neighbors shared in her relief and happiness. Daisy, once a symbol of loss and pain, had become a beacon of resilience and love. In the days that followed, Roland organized a town hall meeting to address the broader implications of the incident. The community center was packed, standing room only, as residents came together to discuss the need for accountability and support. Natasha, though nervous, stood at the podium and recounted her experience with steady resolve. Her words, filled with honesty and hope, resonated deeply. She called for unity, urging her neighbors to stand against prejudice and build a community rooted in kindness and understanding. Roland took the stage next, outlining new initiatives to address hate crimes and improve relationships between law enforcement and the community. His vision was clear: to create a town where everyone felt safe and respected. The crowd responded with enthusiasm, their shared commitment to change palpable. Meanwhile, the biker faced a court hearing. The details of his actions were laid bare, and public condemnation was swift. Though some advocated for rehabilitation and second chances, the majority agreed that justice needed to be served. The biker, showing signs of remorse, agreed to participate in a restorative justice program, though his path to redemption remained uncertain. Life slowly began to return to normal. Natasha resumed her daily walks in the park, her head held high and her spirit unbroken. Daisy trotted beside her, her tail wagging happily, a testament to the power of love and perseverance. Natasha opened her farm to children and families, sharing her story as a lesson in courage and forgiveness. The farm became a place of healing, where laughter and hope thrived. Roland, too, found renewed purpose. His balanced approach to justice and compassion earned him respect within the police force and the community. The programs he implemented became models for neighboring towns, and his leadership shone as a beacon of integrity. Thank you for being part of this journey of resilience, justice, and hope. If this story inspired you, try to subscribe to our channel, like and share. Your support helps us share more powerful tales that uplift and connect us all. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Together, let's stand for kindness and unity.